All right, my little cherry cobblers, here we go. A lot of stuff to cover. What I plan on doing is going through some of the Bill of Rights again. We're going to take a look at federalism, which is the 10th Amendment, meaning the powers the national government has, the powers the state government has, and, well, they share some powers. And then we're going to take a look at some of the other amendments that take a look at the 12th, 13th, 14th. We'll get through some civil rights amendments, and we'll probably get up to the 18th to 20th Amendment. So here we go. Scrolling back up. We know that the First Amendment protects the 5 freedoms, right? Speech, press, assembly, petition, and religion. Okay? So we know that. 2, right to bear arms, gun ownership, right? 3, no quartering troops during times of peace. So no forcing the people to house soldiers. 4th, no unreasonable searches or seizures of goods without probable cause. I'm going to make some spelling errors, so just go with it because I'm at least trying to type this to show it to you, right? So no unreasonable searches or seizures without probable cause. You must have a warrant to go through people's stuff. So we looked at that in class. All right, the 5th Amendment. These are rights of the accused citizens. We also call these Miranda rights. So you have the right to remain silent. If you give up that right, anything that you say can and will be held against you in a court of law. You have the right to an attorney. If you cannot afford an attorney, one will be provided to you by the state. Do you understand these rights to which I have read you this day? Yep. Go to trial. So you can plead the 5th if you want. The 6th Amendment. We look at the right, and I'm going down here. I'm going to scroll down a little bit here. Okay. And again, these key words are a big deal. The right to a trial by jury by an impartial. It's really right to a trial by jury. Right to a speedy and fair trial, pardon me. Right to a speedy and fair trial. Impartial trial, too. You cannot know anyone on the court. You can't know the judge. You can't know any of the jurors. You can't know any people in the court. Well, my lawyer is my dad. That's fine. Okay, there's not a problem with that. But it needs to be an impartial trial, impartial jury, okay? And it's supposed to be speedy and public. You shouldn't be like locked up for 6 years until you get your trial. It's ridiculous. So it also says double jeopardy. So no double jeopardy, meaning you can't commit a crime and then go to trial and then be found innocent and then be arrested for the exact same thing with no new evidence. That's not the case. That's it. Once you've been found innocent, you're done. You're innocent. You can even tell people how you did it. It doesn't matter. You're innocent. We get to the 7th Amendment. We scroll down here. It's the right to a trial by jury, as you can see. So it's the right to a trial by jury. So you're going to have a jury, not just a judge. So a judge can't be like, guilty. That's not the way it is. A jury of your peers should hear it. And again, an impartial jury of your peers. An impartial jury of your peers. That takes us to the 8th Amendment, a personal favorite. No cruel or unusual punishment or excessive bail. So, punishment must fit the crime. Okay, speeding ticket, you're not going to death row. Vehicular homicide, you might be going to jail for a while. All right? You commit murder in one state, flee to another state, you're not going to get just a $20 bail. The bail means the amount of money that they're going to bail you out of jail for, and good luck with that. So the death penalty, not cruel, with an asterisk, or unusual, with an asterisk. And I spelled it wrong. See where I'm going here? 8th Amendment. All right, we're pummeling through. 9th Amendment. Oh, get rid of that asterisk. The Ninth Amendment. By the way, I hope you know your Roman numerals, because these are going to be on the test, and you need to know your Roman numerals. The Ninth Amendment says the enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed or deny or disparage others retained by the people. These are basically rights not specified, but guaranteed to the citizens. For example, internet privacy. There's no way they would have known about that. Internet privacy. Oh my gosh, come on. Internet privacy, they didn't know about that. Driving, they didn't know about that. So these are rights the people have that are not specified. There's no way they could have included every single right in the Constitution. So some of these rights are simply unspecified rights, and it simply means that you have these rights protected. The government can't take them away. Okay? The 10th Amendment. This is a big one. The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited to the states, are reserved to the states, respectively, or to the people. The rights not included in these first 10 amendments are the rights to the states, the state governments. So this is a big deal. All right, I'm going to bullet point some of this stuff too for you. So here we go. Let's go with the one, and we'll go with like this, and we'll hit a space bar, and then we'll make it a tab. All right, so rights not specified. Now, if I were to zoom in onto this, okay, we've got this thing called federalism. It's the national and state governments working together. However, there are certain state laws, and then there's always going to be federal laws. They are different. So all laws must follow the federal government, but some state laws can be a little bit different. Confusing? Good. Here we go. Looking at this side, there are some laws that only the national government has. The national government is the only government that can coin money, make money. They're the only ones who can regulate the post office. They are the ones who maintain the military. They are the ones that declare war. They maintain trade between interstate commerce and foreign nations. They regulate immigration at the northern and southern borders and on our oceans. And they negotiate treaties with peace with other countries. The states don't make their own money, you goofballs. The states can't declare war. What? My name's Iowa, and I declare war on the Philippines. Whatever. Now, the state governments have different powers. So, for example, they host state elections of like the mayor and the governor and the lieutenant governor and the superintendent board person. They create local governments. Like Sandy Springs has a mayor, okay? Sandy Springs has a school board superintendent. Those are elections the states have. State governments, they create schools. So state governments create public school systems. So Riverwood International Charter School. The federal government doesn't care about them, but the state of Georgia does. So state taxes go to public schools. Okay? Also, police, state taxes also pay police officers. They also pay public librarians. Yeah, I know. They also pay firemen. All right? And they pay local government officials. So this is what our state taxes do. So these are powers of the state government. And also they regulate things like driver's licensing, okay? Driver's licensing and stuff like that. Okay, marriage and all that stuff. So these are things that the states regulate. These are not things that the federal government regulates. They don't care about this stuff. Now there are things that are quote unquote shared powers. These shared powers, this is all still a part of the 10th Amendment. Okay, the rights not included in the first 10 amendments are going to the state governments. That's what this stuff is in the blue. Now the green means both oh my God, yellow and blue make green. Okay, the shared powers. The national government and the state governments have to guarantee people's political and civil rights. There is a federal tax and there is a state tax. So both the federal and the state governments can lay and collect taxes. Provide for the public safety. That's like police and National Guard. Public health. So like the CDC. All right. Punish lawbreakers. You break a law in a state government, you're going to jail. You break a federal law, you're definitely going to jail. All right. And then they both maintain roads. States do not maintain interstate highways, though. So I-85, that is not maintained by the state of Georgia. The federal government deals with that. So that is the 10th Amendment, regulates the rights to the states. So again, powers that only the states have, not the federal government. All right, there you go. Beep, beep, beep. All right, here we go. So in terms of going with this federalism, this is interesting. With 50 states, America has 50 different laboratories to test which policies or laws work and which do not. People can choose where they live, and companies can opt to operate in places where their preferences are reflected in local rules. So, for example, there's no state income tax in Florida. So NBA players and NFL players and celebrities, they generally have houses in Florida because they don't have to pay income taxes in Florida. Same thing in New Hampshire, but nobody wants to move to New Hampshire. There's no state income tax, so or sales tax. So if you go to New Hampshire and something is $9.99, it's $9.99. So that is something that each state does. They are the 50 different laboratories. It's the disunited states of America. So just think about it. There are two states that can be very different, right? August 25th, California banned the sale of petrol-powered cars from 2035 onward. That means only electric cars from 2030 onward. But in Texas, there's no way they would do that. They passed an abortion bill. So states can basically pass different laws. To understand the future of America, don't go to Washington. Look at the state governors. Look at what's going on in Mississippi. Look what's going on in California. How is the United States divided? That's federalism as well, because the nation is divided. And this is the Disunited States article that I pulled from. So it shows that, man, policies on like immigration and climate change and issues about how the states feel about parties and whatnot, that the United States is basically somewhat falling apart, because all the states have different laws. This also is pretty interesting too. It shows you where the states fall. Now, the left is considered liberal. The right is considered conservative. So, like, if you're more leftist, you're more democratic. If you're more rightist, you're more conservative. And then the farther down on this axis you go, okay, like X and Y, the further down you go on the Y axis, the more conservative a state is. The further up you go, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. So, for example, it shows you Vermont, Massachusetts, and California are the most liberal states. And the most neutral states are like Pennsylvania, Wisconsin right here. And then Georgia is a conservative state that is right on the line of voting more Democrat or more Republican. But they still float down in the conservative line because we have conservative/Republican leaders. Whereas Mississippi and Alabama and Wyoming and West Virginia, those are more the most conservative sides. Now, just to throw this out there too, it is an election year. So more than 1 in 2 Americans will have an election denier on the ballot. An election denier is someone who says the 2020 election was stolen from President Trump and that President Joe Biden did not win the election. That President Biden falsely won the election, that the election was rigged, and that it was not certified. So all of these little purple dots show that there is someone in the state that denies Donald Trump lost the election, which is pathetic just to say there. So America is still torn over issues. There are governors, there are state secretaries of state, there are attorney generals, there are senators, there are members of the House. There are people who deny that President Trump that President Biden won the election and that President Trump actually won the election. Those people are incorrect. I don't even know how to say it anymore. If you feel like President Trump won the election, I'm speaking on behalf of the entire government. You're wrong, and I'm sorry that you're wrong. So you just have to deal with that. And then marijuana. We talked about this in class a little bit. I'm not going to go any more detail about it. Marijuana is not legal to the federal government, but it is decriminalized in 15 states. Meaning there are 15 states you will not get punished for using regular marijuana, but you can get in trouble for selling it unless you buy it from an authorized dealer. That is an in-class thing. So there you go. We're going to press on with the amendments. The 11th Amendment through the 27th Amendment were passed from 1791 to 1993. An amendment is a change to the Constitution. An amendment is a change to the Constitution. So the Founding Fathers knew that the Constitution would need to be changed over time. It's a change. Remember, you need 2/3 of states, and then you need 3/4. You need 2/3 of Congress and 3/4 of the states to create an amendment or pass an amendment. Very hard. All right. So the 12th Amendment. Holy God, this is long. The electors. President and Vice President. Okay, the 12th Amendment creates the modern Electoral College. How we vote for the president. So remember, each state has electors, right? Just to give you an example. So we know that this is the case, right? California has the most with 54. We have Wyoming has 3, right? If you add them up, you need 270 to win the presidency because that's one more than 269, which would be a tie. And then there are 538 votes in the Electoral College total. Remember, it's the number of House of Reps people plus the number of senators, which means there's 2 for each state, plus Washington, D.C. gets 3 electors. Therefore, there are 538 votes. Just to give you that. If you want, you can watch this little video. Remember, it takes you right here.
And Vice President of the United States.
If you haven't watched this video,
to understand how
I would watch it, especially because it talks
Florida,
about
Wyoming, Vermont,
all of the
New
states,
Hampshire, Connecticut, and West
all
Virginia.
those states.
They would only gain 31 electoral votes total from those
bummer.
8 states.
So,
here's where it can get a little tricky.
Yeah.
On a rare occasion, like in the year 2000, someone can win the popular vote but fail to gain 270 electoral votes. This means that the winner may have won and collected their electoral votes by small margins,
Right.
winning just
So
enough
you
states
can win
with just
the presidency
enough electoral votes. But the losing candidate may
without
have captured large voter margins in the remaining
winning
states.
the popular
If
vote.
this is the case, the very large margins secured by the losing candidate in the other states would add up to over 50% of the ballots cast nationally. Therefore, the losing candidate may have gained more than 50% of the ballots cast by voters, but failed to gain 270 of the electoral votes.
Kind of a bummer.
Some critics of the Electoral College.
All right, whoa. You guys need to kind of calm down a little bit. So let's get back out of this thing right here. All right. So the 12th Amendment, I would watch this, by the way. The 12th Amendment creates the modern Electoral College. That is what that does. Let's keep going on. Amendments 11 through 27 were passed between 1791 and 1993 and came about as the nation needed to change the Constitution. Events such as the Civil War and the Progressive Era, the Vietnam War, these events influenced the national government and changed amendments. So these were amendments that changed things. Now, Amendments 13, 14, and 15, we call them the Civil War Amendments. So Amendments 13, 14, and 15, these are the Civil War Amendments because they were passed just after the Civil War. These were amendments that were directly impacted by the United States after the Civil War. So just to give here, all right? In 1865, after the Civil War ended, neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for the crime whereof the party have it shall, whatever. Neither slavery nor involuntary servitude. So the 13th Amendment officially, for the first time, involuntary servitude. So right now, the 13th Amendment says no more slavery. This is the first time slavery is mentioned in the Constitution, by the way. Remember, it always talks about like no persons held in labor or no persons migrated. Blah. This is the first time it says slavery. Now it says slavery and voluntary servitude. If you go to prison and they ask you to pick up trash along the highway, that's not involuntary servitude. They actually ask those people if they want to do it. And at the same time, you're in prison. You have rights. So enjoy it. So now, no more slavery. Now here's the big problem. Here's the big issue. Now you have 4 million slaves who are now free. So what to do with them? Do they get rights? Do they get to vote? What do these 4 million newly freed slaves get? That's where the 14th and 15th Amendments come in. The 14th Amendment, probably one of the most controversial amendments we have. All right? See, there's a big asterisk right there. Here we go. In 1868, the government said, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction, basically where they live, thereof, are citizens of the United States and of the state where they reside. No state shall make a law which abridges or prevents their privileges or immunities of the citizens. These people cannot be denied the right to life, liberty, or property. Huge asterisk. Okay? The 14th Amendment means rights to freed blacks after the Civil War. But it's also called rights guaranteed to all citizens. Now, the reason why I put that in a triple asterisk is as follows, okay? So, this says all persons born or naturalized in the United States. Were all slaves in 1865 to that point born in the United States? Yes. It was basically saying all former slaves are now citizens because they were born in America. And now they are free. So it does not matter what their condition of servitude is. They are now citizens of the United States. Well, this is where the issue lies. So wait, all persons born? Well, technically it says all persons born. So if you are an illegal immigrant and you have a child, that child is a citizen, which is controversial. We probably don't think that the people in 1868 wrote this amendment thinking about future illegal immigrants. That probably wasn't even a thought. I mean, really, that wasn't even a concept. So the idea that makes this controversial is to do with illegal immigration. People who come over here, whether they are pregnant and they have a child, that child is now a citizen, even though the parents aren't. The kid can stay, but the parents have to be deported. Or if you come over here and you are born in the United States, let's say you're illegally brought from Puerto Rico and you arrive in the United States, all right, and you are born in the United States and you live 50 years here in the United States, since you were born here, you're a citizen. You cannot be deported. But if you move here, your parents are pregnant, your parent gives birth to you, you live here 50 years, your parent lives here 50 years, your parent can still be deported because they are not a legal citizen of the United States. So this is what makes it a hefty issue, is should everyone be born in America be citizens? So should it really be all persons born? That's what people want to know. There are a lot of people that want to change that because the way it was written is not the way it was intended. The last of the Civil War amendments is the 15th Amendment, passed in 1870. The right of citizens to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by the account of race, color, or previous condition of servitude. Race, obviously meaning blacks. Color, or if you were born to a black mother and a white father, or a white father and a black mother. Or previous condition of servitude, so slavery. So these is right to vote regardless of race or ethnicity. Now notice it does not say anything about sex, gender. So African Americans who were enslaved got the right to vote before free white women, which was a big deal socially at the time. So the right to vote regardless of ethnicity is guaranteed. And that was a big deal. Now that doesn't mean that states didn't try to make laws that prevented blacks from voting, like poll taxes, where you tax someone for voting, or also if you have literacy tests, or if you have to have voter identification. These are all ways to prevent people from voting, especially at the time. Sorry I'm yawning in your video, but at least I know that I'm staying awake, and you should be too. So these are our civil rights amendments. All three of these will be on the test, by the way. Amendments 16, 17, 18, and 19. These amendments are called the Progressive Era Amendments. These amendments were passed during a time where there was little economic or political government control over the citizens, and the people needed reform. Now, when I say little economic reform or little government control, after the Civil War, the people basically just did whatever they wanted. Millionaires could make millions and millions and millions of dollars and pay their workers $1.20 a day. They could have their employees work 7 days a week. There were no laws that went against this. There were no laws that taxed people on income. There were no laws about really anything in terms of economics. So some of these laws were introduced to change political corruption, to change the way America looked socially, to make America a socially better nation. So here we go. Amendments 16, 17, 18, and 19. These amendments were passed during a time where there was little economic or political control over the citizens. These amendments introduced the Internal Revenue Service, taxes, gave people the ability to elect their own senators, prohibited alcohol, which was god-awful, granted women the right to vote, woo! And then brought back the sale of alcohol again. So let's take a look at some of these amendments. And again, I hope you're getting all these things in your notes. That'd be really important. So we're going to look at the Progressive Era Amendments, which is the time from 1900 to 1920-ish. So here we go. The Progressive Amendments. The 16th Amendment. If there is one amendment Mr. Berry hates more than any other amendment, it is this one, and it will be on the test. The Congress shall have the power to lay and collect taxes on incomes from whatever source derived without apportionment among the several states and without regard to the say of census. This creates the federal income tax. Creates the IRS, the Internal Revenue Service. Which means now I have to pay taxes on how much money I make. I hate it. In 1913, there were billionaires who didn't pay a cent of taxes, and the government didn't have any money. So the government said we need to be able to tax the citizens so we can make money as a government. So people like J.P. Morgan, Henry Ford, Andrew Carnegie, oh wait, these names all sound familiar. They were making billions of dollars, and the government never got a cent. So finally in 1913, the government said, we'll have them pay taxes. And today, we have taxes based off of your income. So we've got these things called tax brackets. So let's say Mr. Berry is single, and he makes $61,000 a year. 22% of Mr. Barry's income goes to the government. Let's do some math. I hate doing this, but let's just do it. So let's say Mr. Barry makes $60,000 a year. He has to pay 22% of it to the government. They get $13,000? Savages. So, wait a minute. So $61,000, that's $1 million. That'd be awesome. $61,000 minus $13,500. So that means I only make $47,000 a year. What do they do that? Welcome to the federal income tax. If you win the lottery and you win $1 million, is that correct? That's correct. 1, 2, 3, whatever. If you win $1 million, the government will take 37% of that. So you are a 630,000 heir because they took 37% of it. So you don't even make a full $1 million. And if you're married, same thing. If you're married and your husband and your wife, or your husband and your husband, or your wife and your wife make $82,000 a year, $82,000 a year times 12, $82,000 a year times 0.12. That means you and your whatever, you have to give up money. It's not good. I don't like it. So these are the tax brackets. 12%, 22%, 24%, 32%, 35%, 37%. These were tax cuts, though. President Trump, he passed these tax cuts, which actually were lower than what they were during Obama's presidency. What technically happens is taxes are generally lower during Republican presidencies and higher during Democratic presidencies, because Democrats generally want to raise taxes so the government has more money. Republicans want to lower taxes. That way the people have more money so we don't have to pay more in taxes, so we don't have to spend any money. It's pretty interesting when you think about it like that. I'll leave that. Now, we'll take a look at how the rich avoid paying taxes. This is a great video. I actually really suggest you watch this video.
This is Warren Buffett, one of the richest people in the world.
Oh, and he's eating a
thanks to the company he runs, Berkshire Hathaway. Basically, it's a holding company that just owns a bunch of other companies.
Wow.
Geico, Dairy Queen, a huge
owns
railroad,
all that.
as well as a lot of stock in other companies like Apple and Coca-Cola. So when those companies do well and their stock goes up, Berkshire Hathaway stock goes up. When Buffett took over the company in 1965.
All right, you watch this video. It's really good. It shows you kind of how the rich don't pay as much in taxes as the poor, with an asterisk, because like they keep all their money in stocks. Elon Musk is worth like $200 billion. It's not Elon Musk, it's his companies. And he spends the company credit card. He doesn't spend his own credit card. And I'm going to go over all this in class, and you're going to hate every second of it. Yeah, so this is where our taxes go to, by the way. So if our taxes were a dollar bill, 21%, I mean, like, this is ridiculous. Our state taxes. I mean, really. This is like, what? That gives you an idea. And then we've got state income taxes. Georgia has a state income tax of 5%. So if I make $100, the state of Georgia takes $5.75 of that. Texas doesn't have any of that. Nevada, Wyoming. These states don't have any state income taxes, which is amazing. But taxes on other goods are really, really high, just FYI. California, 14%. Oh, my God. We go to the 17th Amendment. The 17th Amendment says, oh, that's funny. You want my money? You can't have it. The Senate of the United States shall be composed of 2 senators from each state, elected by the people. Now, back in the day, before this amendment, the state governments voted for the senators. So if I was the governor and I wanted 2 of my friends to be senators, well, I would appoint them as senators. So then the government was really corrupt. So I could appoint friends who didn't know anything about the government, and then they could be senators, which is like not okay. So this amendment changed it. This said, we call this people directly elect their senators, meaning people vote for their senators, not appointed by the government, which is good which means we have the choice. We choose our senators. So right now, we as the people are determining between Senator Raphael Warnock and Herschel Walker. Technically, if it was back in the day, Brian Kemp, who's Republican, would probably tell Herschel Walker, hey, I'm going to appoint you as a senator. And we, the people, might have voted against him. Who knows? It's interesting. So that's what we got for the 17th Amendment. The 18th Amendment is one of the most heartbreaking amendments in American history. I am shedding a tear. After 1 year from the ratification of this article, the manufacture, sale, or transportation of intoxicating liquors with the importation thereof is hereby prohibited. Prohibition. Prohibition of alcohol. I'm sorry that I'm so down on this. Prohibition of alcohol. No more buying or importing alcohol. Prohibition was a 13-year experiment where people morally had a conscience. They thought, we need to ban the sale and manufacturing of alcohol. Now, what's interesting is it didn't say that you couldn't not drink it, but if you drank it, you had to buy it or sell it or whatever. So it basically said, all right, starting January 1st on 1920, no more alcohol can be bought or sold or made in the United States. And a lot of companies went bankrupt. It was pretty ridiculous. Actually, it's kind of cool. Let's see. Prohibition. PBS. There's a video. This is actually pretty good. Prohibition in the United States. It's made by Ken Bergs and PBS. So you can look, the roots of Prohibition. This little video will tell you why Prohibition happened. And it's pretty horrible. A nation of drunkards. So PBS came up with a video, 3-part series called Prohibition. It's really good. So America was voted dry. That is such a waste of alcohol. Those rats must have been super drunk. Super drunk. Anyways, prohibition of alcohol. I hate it. The 19th Amendment. The rights of the citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on the account of sex. Women, right to vote. It grants women suffrage. Suffrage means the right to vote. I love it. So now in 1920, women have the right to vote.
Hi, my name is Matthew Pinsker. I'm a historian, and here's some things you need to know to sound smart about the 19th Amendment. The 19th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, the one that guaranteed women the right to vote, was ratified in 1920. But the truth is, women had been voting in American elections for long before that.
Just not nationally.
Republic, for example, there were some places where women voted, in the state of New Jersey until 1807. But in most cases, women were denied the right to vote in the 19th century. They started agitating for the right to vote openly and in public in the late 1840s and early 1850s after meetings in places like Seneca Falls in New York. During the Civil War period, women were involved in the fight against slavery and the fight to save the Union. After the Civil War, leaders like Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Susan B. Anthony thought that their fight to end slavery would get them included in the amendments like the 14th Amendment and the 15th Amendment that guaranteed the rights to former slaves.
But
and they lost.
Yep.
It was a devastating blow to their cause. And so they reorganized themselves in a long campaign for suffrage. Sometimes they did this on a state-by-state or territory-by-territory basis, especially effective out west. Then there were women led by Susan B. Anthony and Elizabeth Cady Stanton who organized the National Women's Suffrage Association.
The first state/territory to grant women the right to vote was Wyoming. Wyoming in 1869 allowed women the right to vote so they could get women to move out to Wyoming. That's why the state motto is equal rights.
They were fighting to change the Constitution. Sometimes they fought in the courts. They actually tried to vote. Susan B. Anthony got herself arrested at one point doing that. Ultimately, these fights converged at the beginning of the 20th century and during the era of World War I. there was a serious campaign to try to change the Constitution. They had what they called silent sentinels posted outside the White House with protest signs. Those silent sentinels were arrested by municipal authorities and imprisoned. It was a stark moment in the history of women's rights, women being imprisoned and in some cases force-fed. Eventually, women gained the right to vote in states like New York. They convinced Woodrow Wilson to support women's suffrage. And finally, by 1919, the Congress had endorsed, after much struggle, this proposed amendment to the U.S. Constitution. And women began voting wholesale across the country in the presidential election of 1920.
So there you go. Women get the right to vote in 1920, the national right to vote. So I'm going to stop this here for video number 1 for you. You make sure you have all this stuff in your notes. It's kind of a big deal. All right? Enjoy.